The Fantasy Fanatics Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
And now it's time for Fantasy Fanatics.
Welcome back. This is our second hour of Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
You can tweet at us and follow us on Twitter. I'm at Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm at rrisky16.
And you can call the show as well, 630-403-5200, 630-403-5200. So, let's talk about some baseball now, as the Cubs did, in fact, get David Ross, and now we have to see if the Cubs are going to try to shop Wellington Castillo.
Well, they kind of have to. They're not going to carry three catchers, and really what they're putting an emphasis on is defensive for catchers, because David Ross and Miguel Montero were both in the top three for catchers in pitch framing and receiving, where both of them were in the top four, I believe, in pitches that were out of the zone that were called strikes. So the deception for the umpires, I mean, they're really looking at pitch framing and being able to call a game, and receiving skills is really what the Cubs are really looking for right now.
Yeah, and
Castillo was bad. I mean, he was bad at pitch framing. He was bad at calling a game. He was bad, and he wasn't very good in getting pitches outside of the zone called for strikes.
Right, and you factor in the fact that he only batted 240-something.
237.
And he didn't have a lot of production at all.
I mean, granted, he was only making like $600,000, except now you could probably get some low-level pitching prospects for him.
You probably could.
Maybe they can send him to the Diamondbacks and get Jefferson Mejia back.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't think the Cardinals are going to... I mean, I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to take him back. But,
no, except who is their catcher? That's what I'm wondering.
That's a good question. I don't know. I wonder who it says like on their depth chart. I'm not sure who their catcher is.
I don't remember who their backup was last year. I would assume that it was some right-handed hitter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder, where Wellington Castillo is a good fit. Is he a good fit with the Dodgers? Because I know that there was some talk about that, right?
No, because they got Yasmani Grandal in the Matt Kemp trade, so they got their catcher of the future.
Is San Diego trying to look for a catcher?
They got Derek Norris from the Athletics.
That's right. Everyone's moving around, so I mean, it's like everybody's moving around.
They really are.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that's like, oh, I thought he was on that team. Oh, he's on that team. like he just moved.
Yeah, there's a lot of trades at the winter meetings.
It's probably the most that we've seen in a long time, for sure. But yeah, the Cubs are going to be looking to get rid of Castillo and hopefully get some good things back, things that they find good. You still have to factor in, is Chris Bryant going to start opening day?
No.
Is he going to start in the minors? He's probably going to start in the minors like we think. But
is the month of April this year worth losing him to free agency a year earlier, possibly?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, you have that. I mean,
another thing is, do you really think a rookie's going to, playing in Chicago is going to dominate in April?
No. It's hard for anyone to dominate in April.
Unless you're playing, in warmer places.
Right. Especially in April, that's when you get the kinks worked out, and then, late May is when you really start to turn into a team that you're going to be. But there's still a lot of question marks for the Cubs, is Javier Baez, is he going to have a better year? Hopefully he doesn't go through a sophomore slump. Obviously, that would not be good. It can't get much worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the sophomore slump would be worse than his first year.
Right. If it's a sophomore slump, but we hope it's an improvement. But that's a question mark right now, and you got some good guys in the minors right now with Bryant and Addison Russell and some other guys. So
Solaire's technically still listed as a prospect because he's still a rookie.
Right. So Solaire did he did extraordinarily well right when he got brought up, pretty much. So hopefully he can continue that production. He's going to be playing in right field.
Right, and the key for him is staying healthy, because obviously he's had some injury concerns his first couple of years within the Cubs system. He had the stress fracture in his leg after fouling a pitch off of his leg, and then last year those hamstring injuries. Like, it seemed like he'd get the hamstring injury, come back a couple of games later, another hamstring injury. I think he had 3 or 4 hamstring injuries.
Yeah, I think he did. And then center field's a little bit of an issue. I'm not a huge fan of Alcantara. I think he's a good role player. I don't think he should be starting every day. I think currently, right now, he'd probably be the starting center fielder.
He would be, and they'd start Coughlin in left. I mean,
yeah.
Really, I mean, they really don't really have much to lose by letting Alcantara see what he can do after making some adjustments, because he's been playing. Him and Baez have been playing really well in winter ball. I think Baez is hitting over 500, and Alcantara's hitting over 350.
That's good to hear. Obviously, that's a good time. I mean, that's a good thing. Obviously, hopefully, it'll translate over into the major leagues, because I think Sweeney's still on the team. He would be like the backup for center.
Which I like Sweeney as the backup, because he's a left-handed hitter that has power coming off of the bench to pinch hit. Mm-hmm. Like, you always want to have some guy on the bench that you can just pinch hit and expect him to, like 1 out of every 4 times come up with a big hit.
Right, so hopefully he'll be able to, and then, of course, we'll get Castro back. He was injured. You remember that as he was sliding into home plate. Yeah, he hurt his ankle. He was out for the last 3 weeks of the season, or something.
And you'd like to hope that Rizzo's back injury isn't anything that'll be lingering throughout next season. You hope that it's just something this year, because you never know with these back injuries. Look, Troy Glaus is hindered by back injuries and never really reached his maximum production in his prime years.
Right. That's a good example, too. I remember Troy Glaus.
Like, I mean, he was playing phenomenally, got that back injury, and then he turned into like a 250 or 260 hitter. He was still hitting home runs, except you could tell he wasn't at maximum production.
Right, it's just like that's pretty much all he was doing, and a lot of times he probably struck out, I'm assuming. I hope Anthony Rizzo can have a season like he had last year, because he had a breakout season for sure.
I mean, if you probably think about it, if the Cubs if they had won that division, he probably would have been the MVP over Kershaw.
That's a good point.
That's how good of a season he had.
Yeah, he pretty much put the team on his back.
And he missed like 3 weeks with that back injury, and he still hit 280 with 32 home runs, and he was walking a lot. So, I mean, you have to keep that in mind. If the Cubs were a contender, he probably would have been the MVP, and his numbers might have been even better, because he would have been driving in more runs, because guys weren't getting on for him very much until Coughlin took over the leadoff role, where he's had someone to drive in.
Right. Now let's talk about the pitching staff. Obviously, Lester's your main guy, your ace guy. You got Arrieta right behind him.
I personally think that it should be a spring training battle between the two of them for who gets to start opening night against Adam Wainwright.
You think so?
I think Arrieta did good enough last year that he deserves the opportunity to battle it out in spring training.
Right. I mean, I understand that. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just think opening day, you sort of have to have Lester just because of all the experience he has and everything. I understand. I think Arrieta, he's definitely well deserving of that spot, but I think it's probably going to go to Lester. But it'd be interesting if they had a competition in spring training to see.
I think that's personally how it should go, because, I mean, it's not like Arrieta just had, like a 3.30 ERA last year. I mean, he had a 2.50 ERA, and he almost threw 4 no-hitters.
Yeah, he had, like 4 games, like you said, that went into the 7th or 8th innings there with no-hitters.
And he led the MLB in games that he went into the 4th inning with a no-hitter.
Wow, yeah.
I think he did that like 8 times.
Yeah, you might be right about that. And then, of course, there's the bullpen improved when they got Jason Mott, so that was good.
Right, they got another right-hander in there, a lot low risk, high reward, and it's a guy that can really throw. The only question in the bullpen is they don't really have any left-handed relievers. I mean, obviously, the only guy I can think of that will be in the bullpen, I'm pretty sure they'll throw Felix Dubron in there as a lefty, and then whoever loses out, the 5th spot between Travis Wood and Sayushi Wada.
Yeah, and then you'll have Jacob Turner there in the bullpen too, I think, right?
I don't see a spot for him. I see the bullpen being Rondon, Ramirez, Strope, Mott, 2 lefties.
Okay.
And then Justin Grimm.
That's right. I do agree with you on there. I think Justin Grimm will be there.
The only difference there is that they may start Grimm in the minors to pretend to stretch him out as a starter just so he's not Super 2 eligible.
Yeah, there's a couple good guys. The names I can't necessarily think of. Schlitter, right?
Yeah,
Is he still on the Cubs?
Yeah, he is. I didn't think
Okay.
he was very good.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of him.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of people in the bullpen.
I just remember there was one game I was at in 2010. The Cubs lost 12-1, and he had like 4 bases loaded walks in a row. And then the next guy hit a 3-run double off the wall.
Oh, that's
And I was
great.
just like, man, this guy is horrible.
That's great.
That's why I wasn't a big fan that he made the team out of spring training last year. And again, they'll probably make more they'll sign some more guys to minor league contracts with invites to spring training to battle out for a final bullpen spot. And you never know, they might go and trade for a lefty reliever. I've read that guys like Robbie Ross of the Rangers and Luis Avilan of the Braves, who had 2 really good years in a row before flopping last year.
Yeah, so they're due for a bounce back.
So yeah, I
That's
mean,
true.
so there's obviously some trade candidates out there they could go for, some low risk, high reward. I mean, obviously you still in your system, you got Roscup, Dubront, Wood, and Wada, and you have to figure at least one of those guys will be a lefty in the bullpen.
Oh, yeah,
Probably 2,
yeah.
because I mean, one of Wood or Wada will not make the rotation. You'd like to figure that Edwin Jackson is gone. They'll just cut him.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't got rid of him yet. I guess
I think
there's still time to do it.
They're
But,
holding
yeah.
out all hope that possibly they could trade him. Hey, maybe you could package him and then eat some of his salary in a Wellington Castillo trade.
That would be interesting.
I'm pretty sure there's teams that are still looking for starting pitching. The Cubs could eat some of that salary.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that they're probably trying to do. I think the Cubs are trying to do everything that they can. That's for sure.
Yeah, they are. They're keeping everything open. I mean, right now, I mean, obviously it's not going to be a complete team going into spring training and even on opening night. However, as the season goes on and they start calling up guys like Bryant and maybe Russell, then maybe the team will become more complete. And maybe at the deadline they could add maybe another outfielder, because obviously the outfielders that are in their system right now are not really MLB ready, so they probably need to go and get someone like maybe if Alcantara doesn't play very well, or maybe Coghlan doesn't have as good of a year, because Coghlan hasn't had very many good years since his rookie year.
That's true. Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the White Sox and baseball. You're listening to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. The Fantasy Fanatics podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.